We welcome you into another edition of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead Show. And dear Goon, we are in the month of August, which means we are a month away from September and all of the great things that come with September, including, of course, college and NFL and high school football.
Don't know who sent the tweet today, but they put a picture of College Game Day up, and they said, "We have football this month." And I was like, "Oh, damn, I love it."
Yep.
And my wife looks at me and wants to smack me in the face, saying, "Stop wishing your summer away." And I'm like, "Well, it's what I do. I love it. I love fall Saturdays. There's nothing better in this whole world."
Now, with you 100%.
She asked me straight up the other day when we were talking, I was like, "Man, they started camp early this year. They started camp on Sunday, which would have been reporting day of July 31st, which was first time ever in a long time, because I remember I reported July 27th.
Is that right?
Yeah, and because we played Georgia Tech in a kickoff classic.
Yeah.
So I reported, and then we had freshman camp for 4 days before the rest of the team came in. I mean, I was like, damn. Yeah. I looked at it the other day, and she was like, "What year was that?" And I said, 1991. And she goes, "That was 31 years ago." So after I put her in the closet and locked the door for a couple hours,
that's just absurd.
Let her remember what
31 years ago.
I know, but then she says, "Do you miss it?" And I talked to all my friends. I mean, you know it. Every person who ever played football.
Yeah,
they miss the Friday, Saturday, Sunday aspect of it. You do not miss the.
Yeah, it is so funny when you. I mean, even now, and listen, I was average at best,
Sure.
and that's probably being.
We have that in common.
Kind,
you know what I mean?
Yes, in a high school, but there is something I do. I had the opportunity to do the PA announcing for the state high games last year, and there is just something about being back in that environment that it's like you can't help but your mind goes there. And I don't talk about it or bore anybody, but when you're there, but you can't help but think back to how great those times were. And again, you're talking about an average high school player on what was an average team, but man, just great memories, and it was special to be out there.
Because you were with your friends. Your closest friends in your life were your teammates, correct, or no? Yeah.
And, one of the things that, and it's one of the reasons that those of us that love sports is the bond that is created. And it's a different bond, obviously, between teammates and fans, but right, it's still a unifying force. Hey, you're a Pirates fan? Like, you go up to a complete stranger, it's like, man, I feel your misery. Or Steelers fan, hey, king of the castle, all this stuff. I mean, there is something that it does unite you.
It does,
and it's special, right? Like, and I was thinking back, we had. High school football was obviously very big, but honestly, one of the great bonds, and I reconnected with a couple of friends at our high school reunion, and the Little League baseball teams that I played on, we had a great time on those teams, and some of the wrestling and basketball teams that we played on, and I'm talking about like elementary school stuff, but the baseball in particular, and it's been fun for me. The reason I'm bringing it up is Reggie, my son, is in Little League this year in Pee Wee, and it's been fun to just watch. And it's the progress of, hey, I can actually hit the ball off of the coach. Hey, I actually know now to run past first base, and it took a while to get there with just those two components of it. But it's been fun to watch him and the team just develop and start to understand, oh my gosh, all right, I got to get the mitt down, stuff that they just were not able to do, or very few of the kids were doing last year. And it's been fun to watch him and them develop. But it's also been fun, they were at the Spice game, a few of them on Saturday night, and saw each other and got to and they gravitate toward each other because they're teammates, right? It's a big deal.
Common bond.
Absolutely. And, I think back to those summers for me, and at that time, the All-Star game was a huge deal. We're going back to the late 70s or early 80s. And one of my memories that just stands out, we went to one of our teammates' houses over in Lamont, and he had a pool. And so that we had a pool party. And, again, we were probably in 4th, 5th grade. Mm-hmm. To this day, it was a highlight because we all got together and watched the All-Star game. So we had hot dogs and whatever, swam in the pool, and then we're glued to the All-Star game.
Completely enamored when Willie Stargell made that throw from right field.
Yep, and
that wasn't Stargell.
And it's just Dave Parker had the two throws that just were phenomenal. But those memories are just they're special.
Yep.
And they're fun. And for football, it just can't get here soon enough. And yes, I'm not wishing the summer away. I do look forward to we have some things scheduled just locally here over the next couple of weeks that I am looking forward to. But I am also very much looking forward to football season and seeing what happens with everything. And Again, we were talking the other week, but I really think for Penn State, and watching another interview with Sean Clifford, what was it, this morning or last night? I'm forgetting which now, but I do think having Sean Clifford and PJ Mustipher is a great place to start. And you combine them with Jair Brown, and there's a lot of quality leadership on this team, guys that are good players and really good guys in terms of being able to lead the football team and set an example. And I think in both cases with Clifford and Mustipher, guys that are maybe have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder and a little extra motivation because of the way last season played out and personal injury issues that they've had to deal with, and Mustipher just getting back now out on the practice field, and that's a big deal, right, for PJ Mustipher. And if those guys can stay healthy, and listen, I get it, it's still going to come down to that offensive line and whether or not this team can get a yard or two when it needs it in crunch time and critical games. But it does feel like this team has a chance to do something special. And whether or not it does, obviously, remains to be seen. It'll all play out. There's a couple of road tests early that I think will go a long way toward determining how this thing at least can come together. But as always, there's some luck involved, and they got to stay healthy at the key spots.
I mean, you talked last week about what Jahan Dotson said when he was he said, if couple things hit differently last year. It's a whole different team they're playing, and
if they stay healthy, right? Yes. I mean, and really, when I say if Clifford and Mustipher stay healthy, he's saying he thinks they're in the college football playoffs,
and that's what they lose them. And I think that Clifford came back, obviously, for the season last year, at the end of the season, but he was not the same person. There's no doubt in my mind that's a different Sean Clifford that was had in the first 4 games of the year. Mustipher losing him at the Iowa game, and there's a guy. The defense went to hell when I think he was their verbal leader, their physical leader. Stuff to be said and done. He was the guy doing it, and you lost that at the Iowa game. And as we say, the trajectory of that team last year, after losing that game, I mean, Jesus, how fast it went downhill there. You lost your voice. You lost your hard guy on defense. And I just think that going into this season, Mustipher was going to be an NFL player this year if he had stayed healthy last year, because he was at that caliber. He plays at that caliber, blows his knee out. Now he's back for a whole other season, but he has to reprove himself to the NFL guys that, okay, he is 100% recovered from that knee injury. So there's a guy right there. You're going to tell me that's a guy who's hungry. And I think that Clifford is going to go down that same route of being that hungry type of guy because they are on borrowed time. They are having an extra year at Penn State, and I just don't think that I think that they have learned from their mistakes of last season and will not allow that to happen again. That's how I feel about it, because I heard an unbelievable story about PJ, and I was just like, God damn, I like that guy. I really do, the way he was talking. So people were like, when the NIL started coming up and this and that, I heard a rumor, and I actually had, I was told that he doesn't want that stuff. He just wants to play football. He doesn't want to be bothered with all that bullshit. And I'm like, that's awesome. As an old school boomer, of course I'm happy with that. Like, okay, this guy just wants to play the game. Now, is he leaving money on the table? Of course he is. He's going to look at that 10 years now and go, maybe I should have done some more of this or that. But as an old school player, being an old person, hearing that, it was sort of a breath of fresh air hearing that, saying he does not want to be involved with that. He just wants to play football. And I was like, damn, that's my kind of guy right there. So I expect big things from them. I expect they are good leaders. I think that if they stay healthy, PJ's future is very, very bright on Sundays.
For
and then
sure.
Sean can play his way into a Sunday contract possibly. So it's a huge season for those guys. And I think it's a lot of unfinished business. I think they got rid of a lot of guys who were not that great of leaders last year. So we are going to see.
Yeah, and I really think we've talked about this before, but I do think the schedule potentially, and obviously if you lose that opener at Purdue, you change your tune real quick. But I do like the way the schedule lays out in terms of building this team's confidence, building some continuity early, getting an opportunity to get in front of important eyeballs nationwide right out of the gate, and then again in a hostile environment at Auburn in those first 3 games. And then again, but if you win those games, then you start developing that. And I realize we were saying the same things last year again, and it comes back to staying healthy. But because I do think this team was on track to do something pretty special last year. I don't know if it would have gotten to the football playoffs if everybody's healthy, but they're in the mix.
Yeah.
I mean, I do feel pretty confident that, if everybody's healthy and that Iowa game plays out the way it started, then I think, you're at worst, you're looking at a 10-2 team last year. And I think that's worst case scenario. But again,
I did some snooping around yesterday. I was trying to find an old Penn State Illinois score, but the 9 overtime game just kept on popping up on YouTube and all this. And I couldn't believe it, but we were still ranked 7th in the country. And that was mid-October.
Yep.
So you went from that Iowa game being a top 5 matchup, and looking back on it and looking at how Iowa ended up, they were not a top 5 team.
No.
I personally think that we should have been a top 5 team. We were at that point, and then that injury to Clifford happened. So, I mean, what a tale of 2 seasons that turned out to be. And, you can go back and look at it and say, whose fault is it that we not have a second-team quarterback ready to go in that game? The silent snap. There's a lot of fingers to be pointed around in that situation. And everybody can blame whoever they want, but bottom line, the team didn't get it done. And then you go against Illinois, and then you lose a 9 overtime game to an unranked. I don't think they even had a win. And then the air just left the sails at that point, and it was just like, what's going on here? That's what I do not ever want to see again happen here. But it happened to us in '92. There's no doubt about it. It's the same thing happened in 1992. I say the story all the time. I don't know if you listened to the show last week, but it turned into Goons, the memories of Goon, because it was the 10-year anniversary of the Rise and Rally last week.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yep.
When we were talking, the 92 team, I say it all the time. Every interview, every book that's ever been written about our 94 offense, every one of us says, dude, we were more talented in 92. With the amount of players that we had, we were so much more talented, but that they had lost. And this goes back to what you have always said, that you forecast in the future. And that is, once we lost to Miami and we were out of the national title race, our seniors checked out.
Well, and to that end, Goon, I'm wondering if you're not going to see more of that, not just here at Penn State, but with the so-called big-time programs where we've talked about just from a player standpoint. Will players literally check out if their team isn't in contention anymore? I mean, just when I don't mean check out mentally. I mean physically say, all right, I'm good.
Say you started with the bowl game guys. Fournette and McCaffrey started that trend of guys not playing in bowl games or getting ready for the NFL. I can understand that. Your top picks. It's late December, but you're saying this is. I'm telling you what you said a year ago. This is going to happen.
Well. But also, I think so. Yeah, I think you're going to have some top end guys, and I hope I'm wrong about this. But I again, if I'm a projected top 5 pick, and my team is 8-3 and completely out of the playoff picture, why am I? Well, yeah, even more so.
Yeah.
Why am I going to risk my future earning potential with a game at Indiana that is going to decide whether or not we go 7-4 or 7-5 or 8-4? At the end of the day, what does that matter to me?
They've got it mentally for years.
Well, but I'm wondering if you're going to see that even more so also mentally now with these programs. Again, if an Alabama loses 2 or 3 games, does that team decide again, even not consciously and not physically, but just hey, we fooled the tents, because the other teams are still going to like in Indiana or in Illinois, those kids are going to get up for a Penn State game or an Ohio State game no matter what. Doesn't matter if Penn State's 0-10. If they're coming into Bloomington, those players I'm talking about are going to be fired up to have the opportunity to play a Penn State or a Michigan or an Ohio State. And if your kids aren't matching that intensity talent-wise,
then you have
there may be a mismatch. Yeah, but I'm wondering if you're not going to see that more, again, across the board, that once a team loses 2 or 3 games.
I have another added piece of cheese to that layer cake.
Yeah.
Hey, man, I paid you $10,000. You're my NIL sponsor. I sponsored you NIL wise. Why are you not playing right now?
Well, I do think there's going to be a lot more written into these contracts, both NIL contracts and the letter of intent deals that these kids are signing. That listen, yep, we're paying for your education for the duration of your career, so long as if you are physically able, and then you're going to get down to. I mean, you're going to get. At some point, and I don't think it's going to be widespread, but at some point you're going to have a kid who's going to go get his doctor to say, listen, I don't think he should be playing. And the team doctor is going to be saying, well, there's nothing wrong with you. Of course you can play. Because I do think it's going to be written into some of these contracts. And again, I could be wrong on all of this, but I don't think so with the money that's at stake here. I think it's going to be written into these deals that you need to play in, I'll make up the number, but 80% of the games in which you are declared by our physicians to be physically healthy enough to play in order to get that tuition paid for or to get the meals or whatever else.
Another added aspect of the NIL. I mean, I don't want to go down the NIL route. I say it every show, but we go down it anyway. But, I mean, what's going to happen when someone doesn't perform?
Yeah.
And then they're sitting there saying, well, I'm done. Okay, well, these guys who are giving money to sponsor you, they're in business for a reason. I always say the NFL guys and, the billionaire owners are not billionaires for nothing. I mean, these guys earn it. They're good business people and stuff like that. So you're gonna have ramifications, I think, of guys not performing. And what are the long-term ramifications? The long-term one is don't call me ever again, coach. I don't ever ask me for money again. You can't pick a player out, or he's not going to play like this. So that's going to wear it out early. But then you're going to have the guys who think that I paid good money for that guy. He should be out there playing in coach's ears, and it's just a weird situation, and so many different things that can go wrong. And one of them is, well, I paid for you to play. I paid you $100,000 this year. Why are you only playing 5 games? And you underperformed in all of them, so I want my money back. And there's going to be lawsuits involved. A lot of stuff can go down.
No question about it.
Craziness.
And part of it is going to be the coaches that can manage all of this stuff, right? Or in the programs. And it's not just the coaches, but I mean, the coaches are going to be the ones held accountable for how all of this stuff is handled or mismanaged. And
your scenario from day one is still in my head, Ironhead, and that is Sean Clifford is doing a Friday night signing thing or Sunday afternoon. He's not worried about the game. He goes out and throws 3 interceptions. Penn State loses the game. There's going to be fans out there. Maybe you should stop worrying about signing freaking autographs, and you should be worried about your opponent. You're going to have that type of crap.
Sure. Yep, and that's again just part of the.
See, they should have just played in a world where you got exploited like we did and just got taken advantage of for years upon years. I mean, that was the easy thing to do. No one complains about that. I mean, hey, who am I to complain? Hey, what am I going to do? Hey. What are you going to do? So you think I'll ever get some back pay out of this, Ironhead?
I don't think so.
Damn it.
I don't blame you for hoping, but I don't think so.
I got to call Duke at the Skeller and say, listen, I sponsored you for decades, even though you never paid me a dime. You may have gave me a couple Rolling Rocks here and there, but damn. Jeez.
Yep.
Brothers Pizza, the Skeller, Boardwalk Fries was a very, very well-known one downtown. The McDonald's downtown, I think I have I think I put 15 to 23 kids through college on that tab. So nothing, huh? Yep. You don't think I'm going to get anything?
Don't think so. So.
Maybe I'll call Alan Schneider and Associates.
Yeah.
You doesn't get money until he gets money for you. So maybe that's the way I got to go there, bud.
A couple of other things. Good weekend for the Spikes. Just a quick
I was there Sunday.
Tip of the cap. We had fun. We had fun with it. Saturday night they had a season high crowd. Over 5,200 or it was
28. I was thinking wrong. Sorry.
Yeah, it was 50. Over 5,200 anyway, and it was Cub Scout night, and we had a chance to sleep over Saturday night. Oh yeah, Reggie, the Mad Turtle, and I, and Marissa stayed over. So 0 sleep. So Sunday's game may have been a little rough.
Yeah, you sound a little raspy there.
Yeah,
bud.
It was a lot going on Saturday night, but a lot of fun. But going back to what we were talking about, awesome. One of the neat things about that experience too is, and I think it was on the Saturday night post game and listen, that league, like, players are coming and going nonstop.
Yes,
but you're still trying to create those bonds, and they were talking about, that we feel like we're a team that just keeps battling, and we're going to keep trying to do things the right way. And you saw over the course of 4 games, again, for whatever it's worth, those guys really were kind of feeding off one another, had some key hits, had some key stops, and it was just a fun weekend for the Spikes. Obviously helps when the home team wins as far as everybody's mood and the sales for everything at the ballpark, and
beautiful weekend
and all of that, and it was. And the rain held off after the initial delay, held off just fine last night. So that was, or Sunday night. So that was very good as well. But still a great experience.
They did, man.
Yeah, still a great experience to get up to the ballpark.
Did you talk to him at all?
Did not get a chance to talk to him.
Well, me and Booch were up there. We actually did an interview with him up there. And
yeah,
Booch, I liked your tweet on Sunday night. These guys are huge, making me sound like a fat ass. That was some complete crap, Booch. He said, when you put Goon and Devin still in a room together, it's like the room just starts shrinking, and he feels like a little peon.
Yeah, Devin is not a tiny man. That is for sure.
I was talking to Booch earlier before the show, and I said, I coached Devin. I'm not going to say it. I mean, I have a very good relationship with Devin because
I didn't know that.
Really? I was training when I was training him. Oh, when I was training him, because his first year he broke his leg, and he missed a whole season because of his leg injury. And coming back from injury sucks. It really, really does. But you work your ass off. You rehab it twice a day. You come back from that, And in the first camp, he blew his knee.
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
And it was just like, I remember just looking at him, he was just so devastated. And like, he's at this big, just like moldable piece of clay. And he's just like, he is such a big person. I told Booch before the show, I was like, if anybody could ever just get him to the point where he got mad, there was no one in this country, in the world, who could block him. That was the type of guy and type of player he was. Because, we were talking about him and Devin were different. I mean, Devin and Jordan Hill, who was better? And I say Jordan Hill was a much more athletic, freakier, speed type of guy, whereas Devin, if he wanted to go through you, over you, just pick you up and throw you at the quarterback, he could do that at any point.
Yeah.
But it was just great seeing him. And, I see in his eyes that he still has an appreciation of, like, because I remember sitting there and, I'm an ex-player. I was there, so I was there, and I was just like, it's a punch in the gut is what he got when he works his ass off the whole year, and he comes back and all he sees is 9 more months of just two a day rehab, getting that knee back 100% and this and that, and you could just see he was a beaten guy, and he was just like he was like about ready to throw that flag in. You could just see it in his eyes, and I just worked on him mentally, like, hey man, come on, we got to push through. Tried to keep it fun with it, keep it light and this and that. I personally was like his personal trainer in there. Yeah. And I just, tried to get him mentally right in this and that. He will never forget that. He got honored by the Alumni Association, and he found out that Carrie worked there. He went to her office and said, hey, you Mrs. Goon, you tell Goon I said thank you, just and seeing him Sunday and seeing what he has gone through with Leah. Yeah. And he told me and Booch 7 years cancer-free remission, man. Unbelievable. She's a grown woman.
Stuff. I know. That's the craziest
part. She was a salt
part.
shaker when I saw her last time. She was tiny, and then now she's, 14 years old, and it's like, holy crap, man. But it was great to see him, and they had an event. They raised money for the Devin Still Foundation, the Still Strong Foundation, and just a great, great time. Good to see him. Great interview, Booch said. The Ironhead was on the air, and we were listening to you, bud.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I appreciate the opportunity, and
I didn't know you were going to be there Saturday night.
One more chance on August 27th for Roman Bravo Young Bobblehead Night, and I'm going to kind of do a wrestling-themed evening. So
September 3rd, I believe, is the Saturday after the opening game. So opening college football weekend, Mike Morty night.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, because my buddy was going to have his son do the Cub Scout thing there.
Yeah.
And we were just kidding around, just like, oh, wouldn't it be funny? Just, sit up in one of those suites and start making some weird noises throughout the night.
My gosh.
It'll be going crazy.
You didn't need to. Between the cleanup crews and they
What was that?
They had the movie Wreck-It Ralph starting at midnight. So Reg was determined to stay up for it. He made it, I think, maybe halfway, almost at halfway, and he was battling every step of the way. But
that's an awesome thing to do.
It was really cool. And
I remember being a little
it's
kid,
fun that the Spikes give,
and they had fireworks night at the vet. I remember being on the field at the vet, and I was like, "Oh shit, I'm on the Veterans Stadium field," and you're just laying on a blanket or whatever, where you can bring a blanket to the game back in the day, and you just laid there and you looked up and you had the fireworks going on. It was so freaking cool. But that's an awesome experience those kids had.
Yeah, and
did Reg stay for the game the next day, and did most of the kids did they just get up and go? Because it was a 4:30 game.
No, everybody had to be out by, I think it was 7 on Sunday, and they did not. Marissa and Reg did not come to the Sunday game, and
he was a little tired, huh?
More trying to get caught up on the rest front.
Gotcha.
After what was a very fun-filled but very busy Saturday. So
let's talk about the big news in the NFL today.
Yes.
You always give it to me, and like you want my honest opinion. I want your honest opinion about the Dolphins losing a first-round pick and a third-round pick 2 years from now. $1.5 million fine. The owner is suspended until mid-October for tampering with Tom Brady and Sean Payton. What are your feeling on this? And that, I mean, there's no way. But the Dolphins did release that the findings came out that they had nothing. They did not. The integrity of the game was not screwed around with Flores' lawsuit. Yeah. So they were cleared of that. I think that they had said.
Yeah.
But And then my thing with I was talking to Pooch about it was, we're a day later from a quarterback getting a 6-game suspension for sexually assaulting, 25 women came forward. But Booch allegedly. But Booch came out and said that was the Players Association and the NFL making a jurisdictional, whatever.
That means collectively bargained.
It was collectively bargained, but Goodell was catching all the hell for that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, he really didn't have anything to do with it, in my opinion, with the suspension of.
Well, no, it's the judge. The thing I will say, it is confusing because the league was lobbying for a season suspension, and I don't know. I go back and forth in this. I mean, I know a lot of people are saying if there's that much smoke, there has to be fire. And I do get the difference between workplace and courtroom. So. Not going down that road, but there has been nothing proven against Watson. And regardless of what you think about the settlements and all of that, listen, that there have been settlements made for sure over the years, right, by people that know they didn't do anything wrong, but they had the money and they just wanted to get it out of the way, right? Like it's not that everybody that settles is guilty. And again, I truthfully have not followed the cases close enough. I mean, I've read stories, obviously, here and there. I don't know enough about Deshaun Watson. I don't know enough about the people involved making the allegations and all of that to have a firm or strong opinion one way or the other on that. But what was confusing to me is the NFL basically was saying, we think he should be suspended for the year because of the number of cases and the behavior. And the judge basically said, yes, if anything, the behavior was even more egregious. And we need to be taught, we need to take this seriously and all of it. And then laid down the light end of the sentence. Again, I don't know at the end of the day. I just don't. I don't know that it necessarily sends, there are people trying to read all kinds of societal messages on this and what this means for women and what this means for star athletes and all of this. And, it may or may not mean all of those things. I just think the ruling is very confusing given what the judge, it would be like somebody going for a life sentence for murder and the judge saying, yes, man, there were extenuating circumstances and this was an egregious murder and absolutely right. Yes. And so we're going to sentence you to whatever the very minimum is we can sentence you to for murder. Even though all of the circumstances we agree were there for, a life sentence. There's something that just does not add up in the judge's ruling to me, based on, again, everything that was said and laid out in the ruling. It just doesn't match up with what the sentence in that particular case was.
Do you know why? Explain to me why it went to a court and not, this is the first time I ever heard of this. Why did it go to a judge?
Well, that was the agreement. That was the agreement between the NFL and Watson and the Players Association.
Well, why is there agreement for that and not other stuff? I mean, is there other stuff that I've never heard of a judge making that?
I think they're trying to get the league out of
Goodell doing all of this.
Basically, the league is making its case for what it thinks the punishment should be. Players get to make their case for what they think it should be.
On the Dolphins today.
Yeah, and that's still, that's still obviously under the league's jurisdiction. And I do think there was obviously some funny business going on in Miami. That being said, do I think that's the only time? This feels a little bit, and I don't know, maybe it's not. Maybe I'm completely wrong about this and everybody's on the up and up elsewhere in the NFL. I find it hard to believe that no teams are ever reaching out just to get a feel from an agent or somebody close to a player anyway. Hey, when we can start going after players, do you think your guy would be interested? I mean, I find it hard to believe, but so to me, it feels like, kind of like the basketball recruiting circles for a long time. It was like everybody was aghast when, oh my gosh, somebody was being paid
right
under the table at one of these AAUW tournaments or AAU tournaments, AAUW. Yeah, they were selling bucks is what they were doing at the Ag Arena to these players. AAU tournaments. But can you tell I'm still trying to get caught up on my sleep from Saturday night?
Well, I got a question. I mean, is this going to – now, you said before there's smoke, there's fire, this and that, but it's the second time Tom Brady's involved in some underhanded, shady shit.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that's just – I mean, it doesn't change my opinion of him whatsoever. But there are people who are going to go back in there and go, Tom Brady cheated his whole freaking career. He cheated with the Patriots and he was cheating. I guess that the story is that he was talking to Ross with both Michigan people, Michigan alumni. And then once with the Patriots, he was going to retire and come back as a Dolphin, and then he was going to get ownership out of it. That's a smart business decision. I get it if you can make it, but you're under contract with another team. And that's what he did with the Buccaneers when he had his 45-day retirement, I think. Right? And then he came back and said, I'm coming back to play now. This is for next year. I mean, did that happen again? It's just, yeah. Again, what are two friends? He may have known Stephen Ross for 40 years now. Who knows? They're friends. I mean, that's just, I don't know. Are they friends? It's just weird, and who knows, man? But do you think that his name will be tarnished again? They'll try to blame.
Well, I mean, by those that want to tarnish it. Listen, we are a very forgiving society, and
Sure we are.
and world. And you look at some of the rehab projects that have occurred. At the end of the day, yes, it gives more ammunition for those that want to detract from Tom Brady and have some, ill will toward him. And for those that worship him, I mean, this isn't going to change anything. For most of us, again, you might add one more little small check on the con column and the pro con column for Tom Brady. But at the end of the day, pretty hard to argue that his impact has not been remarkably good overall in the game, and that his legacy is pretty secure at this point.
Well, it's pretty crazy that it's keep. I mean, that's some pretty big time stuff that happened to that owner today.
Yes.
$1.5 million fine. You're not allowed anywhere near the facility in any kind of decision making until October 17th.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a suspension the day after, the Deshaun Watson thing came out, where people are just going to throw it up there just for argument's sake and say, what the hell, they care about more than. But I will say this. The only time that Daniel Snyder has been asked to sell his team or leave the NFL is when they find out he was stealing $25,000 from each team. Now, you can't tell me what they went through with sexual harassment, videotaping them, all of that stuff being covered up throughout the emails and this and that, yada, yada, yada. And then he's hiding the fact of the gate at the door, so from the other teams, and costing them $50,000 to $100,000 to each team. And that's when they're trying to run him out of the league. Now, what's more important to these NFL owners than anything.
Geez, Phillies are active today.
Oh, David Robertson from the Chicago Cubs. Booch. The Phillies made a move. Maybe get a starting pitcher, hopefully. Who knows? You got to do something. They're talking about Syndergaard, and I'm like, I don't know. Well, I do want to.
Quite a series. Quite a series.
A hell of a time there,
fantastic series.
I mean, just perfect.
Just what you expect from the.
You're talking about
Pirates
little league maneuvers
Phillies
on Saturday night. Hey, runner on second, one out, ball hit to the other side, obviously to the first baseman. The play's at first, but you don't try and be a hero and throw across the field and tag a guy out at third, and the ball goes away. Phillies win the game 2-1. Just. You're going to lose games. That's how you're going to lose them, right? As painful as you possibly can have a game to be. Right? Is that what the Pirates are going for?
That's Pirates are finding many different ways to lose games.
It's very impressive. So back to my point, and that is that like I was telling Booch the other day. I mean, that's what I say constantly. Talking to Booch. I think Booch is the only person I talk to. So, I mean, they're getting Harper back. They're getting Segura back. Real Muto, Bohm is just knocking the crap out of him. Schwarber's crushing the ball, hitting at 199. But I mean, you get two or three, you get some other guys going. You get Hoskins going, and Castellanes. Doesn't matter who the hell your pitching is, you're going to get 8 runs a game. That's how I'm feeling. If these guys start getting hot and the way they're hitting right now, and you saw it on, well, you didn't see it on, well, you may have seen them on Sunday. The game was at 1. They had 72 hits on against the Pirates. So but if they start hitting like that,
tracking
my
it,
Lord,
yes.
It's going to be a hell of a season. And they get into the postseason, they can make a freaking run. And I've been saying that for a week now. But these guys could also go ice cold and they lose, 30 of the next 60 games. By the way, there is 60 games left. To give you any indication of how long an MLB season is,
it's going to feel
only played 100 games.
It's going to feel even longer for Pirates.
What is it? Are we close to 100 losses? Are we going to hit that threshold?
I don't think they are going to hit it. Although the Pirates collapse in September has become so. I mean, I'm not saying it's out of the realm of possibility yet, but I don't think so right now. And I do think, for as brutal as the series with the Phillies was, you also did see why there are reasons to be optimistic about the future for the Pirates. I mean, they do have some really talented young guys on that team that hopefully will continue to learn and grow. The problem, as it always is in Pittsburgh, is by the time they get it all figured out, the New York Yankees come calling and we say bye-bye.
So you think Cruz is going to go to the Yankees or the Mets?
It's a good question. I would prefer the Mets at this point myself, but
you go to the Dodgers.
You never know.
Obviously
Dodgers
the Padres are stacking up today. I'm like, God Almighty, what is their payroll? They're making the Yankees blush.
By the way,
they're going to sign Soto. They're going to sign him.
They're
just
showing
$450 million. What are they going to sign him for? $500 million? God.
There was a time when the $1 million contract.
I know,
was
right?
Like, what? Crazy.
Like Pete Rose signing with the Phillies from Cincinnati, and people are like, oh, he makes too much money. He makes like $400,000 a year. Oh my God. Guys are making that a game. God almighty.
By the way, a couple of things. Just watching TVs are on down here, and they're talking about Tom Brady and the Buccaneers again with Ryan Jetson out this year. The Buccaneers are going to be one of the more interesting teams to watch. Actually, both the Buccaneers and the Patriots are going to be fascinating stories this year, because the Buccaneers now, that's two guys,
interior guys.
Two guys exactly out of the middle of that offensive line. But somebody was showing a clip today of Max Kellerman, who's doing the piece right now that we're watching, but I think it was either 6 or 7 years ago, and he's like, listen, Brady's going to fall off the cliff here. He's going to be done. It might not be this year, but it's either this year or next year. Like, he is going to fall off the cliff. And this was, again, I think it was 6 years ago that this clip was that they were running it. And it's like, well, missed it a little bit. But you do wonder with the Buccaneers if because Brady is not that mobile, and like all quarterbacks, if you get pressure on him up the middle, right? Well, everybody, I mean, whoever you think is the greatest quarterback of all time, they're not that great when there's pressure on them, right? I mean, that's part of the deal. Nobody handles consistent pressure well at that position. It's just not something that's possible. And
that's his MO.
This could
pressure him.
Yeah, but again, it's truthfully, it's the MO for every quarterback in the league.
True.
You get pressure on them, and they're more prone to mistakes. but I do wonder how difficult this season is going to be for the Buccaneers to try to stay in the mix for a playoff berth in the NFC. And on the Patriots end, in the Brady Belichick watch, that's a New England team that I still think has some gaping issues on it, and the Bills aren't going anywhere. And listen, I think the Jets aren't going to be a contender this year, but that's a team that is getting better. And the Dolphins, to me, become one of the real interesting stories this year, too. Can the Dolphins, kind of solidify that they have moved past the Patriots and are that second team? And can they be a playoff squad this season? I think that's going to be one of the many interesting storylines, but one of the ones that I'm just kind of interested to see how it plays out is, where the Dolphins and the Patriots finish things up and how the Buccaneers season develops with the problems that they have now, in particular on that offensive line with,
two guys,
a very good Tom Brady, but, still a 45-year-old Tom Brady. How well does he hold up with suspect players at the very least on that offensive line?
Unproven. We'll say unproven. So, did you see the GIF that was going around last week of Megatron and Tom Brady?
I did not.
Unbelievable. Megatron went through high school, college, an 8-year NFL career, and is now in the NFL Hall of Fame, all while Tom Brady was in the NFL.
I'm sorry, I did see it. Yeah, I saw a post about it somewhere.
You gotta give that some absolute respect and credit for that. He's 44, 45 years old, still slinging. We're still talking about him. He's still one of the top guys in the league. God bless him, man. I mean, that hurts me to say because of where he's from. Pains me to say it, but you got to give him a lot of freaking credit for that, man.
Yeah, I will be curious to see how this season plays out and kind of where he's at. If it does not go well early,
sure.
As we were talking about earlier, does he just kind of, it's been great, guys. Sorry, this isn't what I bargained for. I'm out. Or does he will that team somehow to staying in contention? And you don't rule that possibility out with
that. But I mean, how big is his will as a 45-year-old guy with suspect guys blocking for him up front?
Well, and that's the thing. Huge. I mean, can he stay healthy? I mean, that's going to be another issue here. Is
the one Kimo von Oelhoffen playing D tackle against him right now, Ironhead? That's what you got to worry about.
Yes, indeed. All right, that is. There were just a couple other things, just real quickly. Wanted to touch on. Big Ten football media days are always just interesting, just to hear different perspectives and thoughts on how things are coming together. I am really curious to see what does happen here with Big Ten expansion moving forward. I cannot imagine that conference staying put now.
Like I said from the start is if you go back and look at it logistically, we talked about who the hell wants to go to California once a year? Then they got to. But here's the thing:
but do they just go west, or do they even go west? I mean, I'm with you. I think that makes sense, and I think getting a Oregon and Stanford would seem like the most likely the targets at Washington. But I'm still on my Central Florida bandwagon as being a good fit for the Big Ten, and obviously it would be a huge step up for Central Florida. But I think if Central Florida made that move, I think Central Florida could become not that they haven't been a player in Florida, and I'm not trying to insult UCF fans, but I think they instantly become legit rivals for the big-time recruits in that state with Florida State, Miami. And again, I'm sure there are Central Florida fans saying, look at our record. We're already there. But I'm telling you, I think it would help solidify. And with their alumni base, I still think that one makes a ton of sense. Yes, for the Big Ten. And then I think you go to another ACC, or not another, but an ACC school, Southern End school, whether it be in North Carolina or if you come back up north a little bit, Virginia or Virginia Tech. But I'm wondering how aggressively the Big Ten starts to go after this national footprint, which they already have to a large degree. But I think now, if you can invade SEC country in the Southeast and, even in Texas, to try to go, and get a couple of the teams out of the Big 12, who knows how this thing develops. I think we're going to go
24, 888.
It would not surprise me at all. I will say really that. It would not surprise me at all.
This is hilarious. I mean, I've been talking about it we've talked about it all last week and was laughing. What if they just go the original 10 and the new 10 and just say they wanted to be the Big Ten forever. All we got was a little slash in the middle of the logo when we joined in 30 years ago. So, no, next year is the 30-year anniversary. Booch. Next year's 30th anniversary.
Yeah, this is the 30th season this year.
So it's our 30th season of the Big Ten, though, right?
Yeah.
9 conference openers at home.
9 and 21.
Yeah, nine home conference openers.
Some people are like, well, why is that a problem? I'm like, that's a freaking hell of a problem. It's like no one else is doing that. That article you with the blog, he was pretty good. Are you on Twitter? He has it for the blog. He had an article that Booch had written, and it's pretty amazing. Like, Ohio State has never gone more than 2 seasons ever.
And it is hard to imagine, because I'm not a big conspiracy guy. I'm really not, and I'm the first to usually downplay that stuff. But it does not make any sense. That's not happenstance. I mean, that can't be happenstance. And it's not just, by the way, football. You look at some of the other sports and some of the things, and I'm not just home conference openers. You look at some of the things, I mean, we've talked about with the Penn State, Iowa wrestling scheduling. There are some things that make you scratch your head about how
they never wanted us.
Legitimately random some of this stuff could be. And if it is legitimately random, then there is really bad oversight, because you can't have that. There has to be somebody looking at it. Wait. This team's been on the road the last 4 years for that. No, we can't. We got to balance this out. There has to be somebody in the office looking at the overall picture, and not just for Penn State, but looking at everything and saying, "No, listen, we've got to make sure there's some balance here in terms of how all of this plays out."
8th year, right? This is his 9th season. How many have he opened on the road?
Be his 9th.
8.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, that's just normal. It just happens like that. It just happens.
Yeah.
Happens to no other team.
All right. We're going to wrap things up.
Now, we will be back. The question to you is, if we do expand and we do go to like different conferences, would you ever expect the Big Ten to bust some people out? It's 95% no, but do you think there's a possibility?
I mean, I would never say never with the way the landscape continues to change, and with the driving economic forces being what they are. I don't think it's something the Big Ten would actively pursue.
There's one team that they would get rid of. I think they would keep Maryland. I think they would bust Rutgers out. Well, Maryland brings a lot of other sports.
The argument against it, I agree with you. The argument against it, and I don't think it's a strong argument, because I think the media figures will show you that in New York, but they're going to argue that the New Jersey and more importantly the New York TV market is brought in. But look at the numbers. Penn State, Michigan draw. Those are your 2 big draws, along with Notre Dame, obviously. But I mean, in the Big Ten, Penn State, Michigan are your draws in New York City.
Now, the only thing that they have is because it is Rutgers and in New York, the Big Ten network is available in those states. Is that the only reason? It's a hell of a reason.
Well, and at the end of the day, it may be. That may be enough to say, listen, we want the national, and it helps you with the shore-to-shore argument and all of that, footprint. And
that's a hell of a commercial they're going to have now, going from LA all the way to Piscataway. Let's talk Thursday.
They need to get to Honolulu, doggone it. Honolulu.
That's the World
Get 'em
Wrestling.
on
That's your
board.
World Wrestling headquarters. For
Yep,
you guys
they've got to get the wrestling.
Commissioner
program going.
Ironhead is Zoom calling wrestling matches from Hawaii.
It just makes perfect
In the
sense.
Big
Hawaii
Ten,
to
in
the Big Ten.
Reality House.
We will be back on Thursday. Until then.